Well, just looking at her, you can tell. Just looking at her, you know she means business. She's found a handkerchief to tie up against her hair. She already had it up tightly wound on her head, but this recalls for reinforcement. So she's got that handkerchief, the red one that she gets out when it's time to get busy. And she's got her work shoes on, those ones that never make it out of the house anymore. They've got a few holes and lots of scuff marks and a bit of paint. Those are the ones when you've really got a task, a job to be done. And her skirts are kind of tied up. She is ready for action. She is going to be down on the floor. She's going to be hauling furniture out of the way. This is going to be a hands-on, full-body activity. You can tell just by looking at her. The couch cushions, they're already off. Her arm has been so deep down the back of the couch, you didn't know there was a there, but it wasn't there. And seeing her wield that broom, like it's some kind of extension of her arm, some kind of an extension of her will, you know she means business. And you know you don't want to be in the way of that broom. And you know you don't want to even be in the range of that broom, or you are going to be swept into whatever maneuvers are about to take place. She's got the whole house's lights on. She who is stingy with the energy bill, she who can tell from the far end of the hall that you have left the room for a moment to get a tissue, but the light did not go off when you went out the door. She has all the lights on. Even that lamp in the corner you're not supposed to touch, certainly not to turn on. That is decorative, not lighting. It's on. But you don't actually need to see any of that because you've caught the look in her eye. You are near enough to hear her muttering, aren't you? That look of fierce determination, of certainty, it is there. She knows it. And it's just a matter of getting through all this clutter to find it. And she's muttering. Can't have gone far. It's not like coins have legs to get up and walk. I saw it bounce. I saw it roll. I know it is in this room. They're wrong. I'm sure of it. They didn't really look. It'll have rolled back into the very, very far corner with my luck, but it will be there once I get to it. But you, just as well, you scoot on out of the way. You'd be underfoot anyhow. Leave it to me. Nothing in my house escapes my attention. She means business. And so you do the only sensible thing, and that is to get out of the way. You get out of the way, and you go to bed just a little early. It's close to bedtime. And you know it's not worth it. All of this hustle, it is not worth all of this scrambling to start at this hour. You'll still be scrambling at midnight. And it's certainly not worth the risk of getting involved. If you don't look busy enough, if you're up and not helping, you will find yourself sorting through a bin that she has handed to you of your things that you need to justify their existence, their right to take up space in this room, of getting in the way of her finding what she is looking for. It is not worth losing a night of sleep over this, just to be frustrated and disappointed in the morning and exhausted and cranky on top of it. You know, right? You know, sometimes you have to cut your losses, but you're too smart to tell her that. She is in one of those unreasonable moods. She is one of those moods where you know that you cannot tell her, so you're just going to pretend that the house full of lights isn't ridiculous. Go to bed. And it takes a while to get settled. It does, because she's banging furniture around and there are lights on, and it takes a while to get settled because you know you're right. And there are a lot of things that you would like to say, and so holding them in keeps you up a little bit. Just give it a few days, right? It might turn up, or sleep on it. You'll feel much better in the morning. You'll let it go. It won't be a big deal, but you're not going to share those thoughts, right? So it takes a little while, and you finally make it to sleep. You've been sleeping now peacefully for a good while when you start to hear new noise. Not the banging, not the sweeping, but one very loud, ha! Gotcha! And you kind of snicker, and you roll over. It sounds like she actually found the thing. Maybe now she'll turn off those lights. Maybe now she will come to bed. At this point, the costs of the electricity and the trouble that she's been to are way out of proportion to the worth of that little coin. But no, that would be the reasonable thing to call it a night. And instead, you hear the tea kettle. You hear dishes being pulled out of the washer, the fridge opening and closing, and you hear voices. This isn't just her talking to herself. There is someone else in the kitchen at this time of night. And you listen, and it's Mrs. Smith down the street. And then you listen, and you hear the kids. She has gotten the kids up at midnight for tea and cookies and ice cream. And there she is, tiptoeing into the room. Hey, I found it. I told you I would. I found it. I've got a cup of tea and a bowl of mint chip with your name on it in the kitchen. You roll over. Ridiculous. You don't want to reinforce this kind of behavior, right? Roll over. This is not the time for a party. And for goodness sakes, this is not a reasonable excuse for a party. Unreasonable. She is unreasonable. God is just not reasonable. She leaves us with a few things to stew on, doesn't she? When we are up in the morning and we can see the dirty dishes from the ice cream and we're having our regular old coffee. The aftermath leaves us some things to think about. Who do we put in that category? The Pharisees are not pleased with these people who are coming to Jesus, the tax collectors and the sinners. And for us, it's probably the person that has the donkey or the elephant or whatever it is on their bumper sticker that drives you nuts, right? Who do we put in that category? Who is too far gone to even be reasoned with? Who is not worth looking for? Who is that kind of person that you would just say, why are you talking to them? And what does God think about that person? So that's one of the questions the dirty dishes leave us. But another one is the coin, isn't it? The way Jesus tells stories to show us what God is like, usually we land in a couple of positions. So sometimes we might be that coin. Sometimes we might hear that story and think about that dumb coin that just had to roll in the one way. Everybody else was over here, but off it went into the corner, and that was me, wasn't it? So thoroughly lost at this point that I can't roll myself back to where I belong. Sometimes we think we're just not worth it, that we are too far gone, that crack we find ourselves in is really and truly the end of the universe, and no one knows it's there. And if we're off the world's radar, we're probably off of God's too. We spend a lot of time sometimes identifying with that wandering sheep or that lost coin and taking careful stock of all the ways that we've gone wrong and where we probably belong, where we are over in this dark corner. We make that story all about the coin. And we forget that the story might be about the crazy lady with the broom. The story is really about the fact that no matter what dark corner we have managed to roll into, God is out there with a broom and is not going to give up until we are back where we belong. A God who is willing to go all the way to the deepest, darkest corners to find us and bring us back. And then there's that last question for us as we sit with our coffee and we look at that melted puddle of mint chip. And the question is, are we ever going to just be ready to celebrate? When she sneaks into our room at midnight with the invitation to join a ridiculous, unreasonable party in honor of someone we'd rather not associate with, are we going to opt out of a bowl of mint chips so that we can have our cup of grumpiness? Or are we going to come to the feast? The feast is ready to begin. Thanks be to God.